good guys can still win.
Head and shoulders above the rest of the pack. Is that fair?
It's the gold standard.
Yeah.
It's like the knight who built his castle in a swamp. Hark, Simon.
A reindeer.
Can you hear? It's the Christian Horner's house. I can hear laughing.
Sure, he got a good price for it. Hello everybody, welcome to this, the penultimate F1 show sponsored by Audi, in which we are going to discuss the magnificent climax to the 2025 season, in which Lando Norris was crowned the 11th British World Champion, the 35th overall, and McLaren, of course, 2 Constructors' Championships in a row. So near and yet so far for Max Verstappen. If you're wondering why we're in a Christmassy surroundings, hello Karun Chandhok and hello Ted Kravitz.
Hello,
because
Simon.
straight after this, we're going to do our Christmas special recording with, I don't know, probably hats and live reindeer and stuff like that. But first of all, let's get into this. What was an incredible weekend. It was just, you weren't there, you were there, yeah, sorry, I forgot you were there.
No, I wasn't. I was at home.
Oh yeah, that's right, you went home, didn't you, after Qatar? I'd forgotten. So
Are you feeling okay?
No, look, it's been a long
been
few
a long
weeks.
triple.
It's been a long trip in which we had lots of fun. But yeah, it was just what an experience to be there, Ted, to be part of it all.
We did have fun. That's without the live reindeer, the elves and the hats for later.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, the triple was an intense run-in, wasn't it? When McLaren managed to get themselves disqualified from one race, made a strategy howler for the next one, and just creep across the line. And relief for them. Had it not turned out well, had Charles Leclerc got Lando Norris for 4th, had it all fallen apart at the last, then we'd be doing a very different podcast today, wouldn't we? People would be calling for heads to roll. They'd be saying, what's gone on at McLaren? They can't win a race. They haven't learned from last year. But they just, thankfully for them, for their sake, made it across the line. And the relief that they must feel by 2 points, the smallest of margins. 3rd place, that's all he needed to do. The car didn't break down. It wasn't the most thrilling of races. I think we call it tense. But they just made it across the line.
There's so much to discuss. I mean, any one of the 3 of them would have been worthy champions, no doubt about that one. Yeah. But Oscar Piastri was afforded the opportunity, wasn't he, to try a different strategy to Lando in the race, and went across, and in the end did the one stop, but it didn't work out for him. And what did you think about the way that McLaren, I suppose, true to their principles to the end, in that the ethos was, we're going to let them race, but they had to kind of do it in their own way and on different strategies?
Yeah, listen, I give them a lot of credit for that, because I think they did a good job. It was tough. There were various points where they seemed to be overcomplicating it this season, but ultimately they let them race. On the flip side, I don't know what else they could have done, because they had 2 dogs in the fight. Like, you can't call one of them off when they're mathematically still in the fight. So I thought Oscar's move on lap 1 was brilliant, around the outside of turn 9. I think he knew going down the straight that Lando was going to be a bit more cautious and back out of it, and he just chucked it around the outside and made it.
It was allowed to happen, though. I mean, as far as we're aware, there might have been a little bit of pre-planning in that.
I don't think so. I know there's a bit of chat, but I don't, because if there was pre-planned, then Lando would have just let him pass on the straight down to turn 6. He defended the line on the inside to turn 6, got a poor exit, and Oscar got a run on him. So if it was pre-planned, you'd do it in a much safer way rather than the fastest corner on the track around the outside.
It wasn't pre-planned there, but they had said that for Oscar to be in front of him would be great and important, actually, as it turned out, absolutely crucial, and Lando knew it was coming.
Yeah, I don't know if he knew it was coming at that point, though.
Okay, they kind of hinted that while it wasn't planned, they knew it was going to happen at some point.
Anyway,
it was going to happen at some point.
The point still is...
But it was important for Oscar to be there.
Yeah.
A, as an insurance policy, and B, to stop the whole backing up shenanigans.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, the race was tense, because actually the key point of the race was Leclerc versus Norris, wasn't it?
Yes.
The first 2 was sort of they just did their own thing. Mm-hmm. And Oscar's strategy, as you said, didn't quite work out. But Leclerc was quicker than everyone, I think, expected. He just sort of stuck around like a bad smell, not far off Lando, and was just enough pressure to keep the tension up.
I'm going to pick this one out, though, because obviously we'll come on to the celebration, we'll come on to Lando, and we'll come on to all of the ups if you like, about a magnificent occasion, as I said. But just with regards to the race to start with, this one in from, I mean, there's loads that have come in on this one. You know, Kravitz Ginsoy, hope I haven't done you a disservice there. Why didn't Max back him up? There's a question here, wasn't there? It's the same from Thomas Johnson. I was amazed by Red Bull's lack of games. So was I. Tsunoda did a poor job trying to hold Norris up. Why not try in sector 3? Also, why didn't Red Bull put a Monza wing on his car and just use him to block Lando? Can't understand. This is especially the point I was making after the race, actually. Why Red Bull didn't bring Max in around lap 40 when, what was it, about 24 seconds, I think, the lead. The gap was enough anyway. And then he could have come on, he would have fresh tyres for last, and then he could have done what Max does best, play some games up front, hope that shenanigans happen behind him. It just kind of seemed to just play out without that happening. That was perplexing. Was it perplexing for you or not?
I mean, I don't know what they could have done, given that Oscar was in P2, that would have yielded the result they wanted. And Max talked about, you know, the yielding what we want to do. Because the backing up, had he done a pit stop and put fresh tyres on and then started the whole backing up, knowing that he had the fresh tyres to go ahead if he wanted to defend from Oscar. And then Leclerc would have closed, but Lando had a quicker car than Leclerc. And then in the end, had Leclerc got Lando, Oscar would have just stopped at the last corner and let Leclerc be second and Lando third.
Unless there'd been further trouble behind them.
Yeah.
Unless he had backed the whole lot up. I mean, he would have been skillful. Right?
And then for the question who asked why didn't they put a new wing on, a Monza wing, well, they would have had to qualify with that. And they wouldn't have been on pole position.
I think he meant from the start,
with a Monza wing. Obviously, the car you qualify has to be the one you race. And then the Yuki thing, I think the mistake with Yuki was telling him that he was sacked a week before.
1 week early.
1 week early.
Yeah.
Because he was not really motivated. He gave the sort of half-hearted. All right, Yuki would probably have damaged his F1 career and his reputation almost beyond repair had he actually taken Lando out.
Yeah.
I mean, would have secured him thanks for Red Bull, but he wasn't going to do that. I mean, really, you can't really do that. That's stuff of the Brad Pitt's F1 movie, really. And then he gave it a go, you know, got a 5-second penalty for himself. I don't know. I don't know what much more they could do. And Lauren McKees reflected that. He said, I'm not sure what we did. We did really well.
But I'm with Simon. I am surprised they didn't pit at the end there. I'm surprised they didn't have a go because it's the last roll of the dice. Do something. You don't know, right? If Leclerc's putting pressure on Lando, will he make a mistake? Will they make contact? Will something happen and they have an incident? I was surprised that, as you said, I think it was 23 or 24 second gap.
It was about that, yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised they didn't try to do something.
Yeah. So that's the race. Let's consider all three protagonists, if we could, in the context of the season, in the context of what they've achieved, right? Lando, what I particularly enjoyed about doing that post-race stuff is that he's got such a nice family, such a grounded family, and they all came on. I mean, Jessica was an absolute star when she came on, and she's just a mother living every single turn and worrying about their son as they go through this. But it's the same with Adam from the father's perspective, who's put so much into his career and backed him so heavily and been there every step of the way. His brother was there, his girlfriend Maggie was there. There were all of his friends and family, and he did it his way. Crucially, I think that's how this will be remembered: is that Lando wasn't afraid to wear his heart on his sleeve. But then when the going did get tough, he found another gear, didn't he? And he shut up shop. How pleased are you for him? And how do you think this championship win will be regarded?
Listen, in terms of how pleased and impressed, very, because as you said, I think, and I'll be honest, and I think you called me the flip-flopper, didn't you? Because at the start of the year, I said Lando would be the favourite. Then after Canada, I really thought he'd thrown it away because he'd made mistakes in 5 out of the 10 quali sessions we'd had up to that point, including sprints. He'd run into the back of his teammate in Montreal. And I thought, this is going to Oscar. And in fairness to him, there were 2 key weekends, I think. Austria, next time out, where his pole position was unbelievable. One of the shortest laps on the calendar. nearly half a second ahead of the pack. And then Hungary just before the summer break, where he was down in 5th on the opening lap, switched strategy, made it work, beat Oscar under pressure. And I think that's, to your point, there were a couple of key moments where he rose to the occasion. And I think Hungary was important because he set him up for the summer break to think, okay, I can do this. He's a different character. He does it his way because he doesn't have, I don't think, that inner self-belief of, I am the best, like a Max Verstappen or a George Russell or a Lewis Hamilton. I don't think he has that. And he almost needs that to be reinforced to him by Mark Berryman, his manager, and you've got...
Adam pointed to him, actually. His dad pointed to Mark saying, it's all down to this guy. I think he put quite a lot in place. He's been with him since the start, 14 years.
Yeah, and in the summer break, they went off, they did days of karting, they gave Lando some time off. He has John Malvin, his performance coach. And they are those key people who just keep saying, look, mate, you are fast enough. You can do this. You can win this. And I think I think it took a village to raise that world champion. You mentioned his family, of course.
Yeah.
But I think there was this wider village that helped to raise him outside of the people at McLaren.
I mean, I'd point further than that. I'd say when the pressure was coming on late on, his dominance in Mexico and the same in Brazil, and those back-to-back weekends kind of were the weekends that got him across the line as far as I was concerned. I don't know.
Yeah, the job was kind of done by then. He was peaking at the right time. Yeah. He was wrapping it up. That Brazil weekend with the sprint when he was absolutely perfect, got every point that was going in every qualifying session. That was amazing, and Mexico as well. What makes me think of it, I love living through these championships. You never really know what you're going to get. You're too young to remember, Simon, but a couple of anoraks like us. Do you remember when Formula One used to bring out DVDs or VHSs?
I've got them all from the 70s.
At the end from the 70s and 80s. And they'd always put some sort of pithy line at the bottom that summed up the year. So 91 was nearly Mansell. Senna does it again. 92 was only Nigel, and 93 was Alain makes it 4.
94
or something like that.
was,
I can't remember what 94 was. I'm in the middle of my story. So this year's Formula One reviewed VHS is going to be, I think it's going to be hard work pays off. And and belief. Hard work pays off because
is that your exact summary of the year?
No, that's what I'm going to call my VHS when my DVD comes out, and people can, are we still selling DVDs?
You should get
hard work pays off because what you said exactly. It takes a village to raise a Lando Norris champion, but also he is such a hard worker, and it goes, sometimes goes missed in the middle of his, advertising things with his top off and stuff like that. He's a hard worker and he does the work, goes through with not only the karting, but looking through all the data and the onboards. And he made it work for himself in the middle of the year when it wasn't working with the car. Hard work paid off. And when he made it work for himself in recalibrating his mental approach to the thing, just never mind about all that. Hard work paid off.
I think I would call it the what if championship because there were all three of them have got a what if. What if Red Bull had a better car in the first half of the year? What if Oscar didn't have that mysterious drop? He dropped 46 points to Lando in that triple header of, Austin, Mexico, Brazil. Lando, we just mentioned, there's all these I think none of them had a perfect season, did they? Max made a couple of mistakes as well, spinning on the restart in Silverstone, cost points there. Spain, we talked about, so I think it's one of those.
And the car, which was not good. The Red
That's what I'm saying, the first half of the season. What if Red Bull had a better car?
You could call it nearly Max as well.
Well, yeah. You
25, nearly Max.
Maybe should have been Max, but for Spain. But don't say that to him. There's so many coulda, woulda, shouldas.
Yeah.
You could maybe call it the coulda, woulda, shoulda campaign because
that'll sell.
That would really, really sell. It could have been any of the three. As you said, there were periods where Max was the form horse. There were periods when it was Oscar, and there was a couple of periods where it was Lando, and it was a case of timing. But I wonder if we come back to the discussion about racing ethos. 2 number ones versus a number one and number two. Yep. The 2 number one model nearly got caught with its pants down at the end, didn't it? But yet they'll continue to race like that. Now, I quite like it. I mean, it's a little bit, let's face it, sometimes Red Bull are portrayed as the pantomime villains. They have been in the past. But when you've got a driver that is fundamentally, as far as I'm concerned, he's in the top 3 of all time, at least, and by winning the most races this year in a car that wasn't always the best, and finishing within 2 points of Lando, and being there in one of the greatest comebacks potentially of all time, how can you doubt the model that Red Bull have in place for him? I mean, that is the kind of that's the kind of thing that will win you more championships than it will lose you if you have the dominant car.
Yeah, but it's less fun though, isn't it?
Yes.
It's quite good fun having the two teammates battling each other. It gives us more to talk about. I think the Red Bull thing, where the Red Bull thing falls down, is perhaps too much emphasis on Max, because what they needed was a bit like, if you rewind to the Schumacher Barrichello days or Hakkinen and Coulthard, they needed the second car. If Yuki was finishing second on some of those wins, Max would have been on the championship. Another thing to add to the what ifs on that list, right? Yeah. So I think Red Bull are maybe too extreme in that focus on one driver. But you know what? As I said before, I credit where it's due to Zach and Andrea. I like the way that they let the drivers battle a race, and it's good for business. It's good for the show.
I think it's become absolutely clear. It's a matter of priorities. If your priority, or at least 60, 40, 40 being what you'd like, is the Constructors' Championship, you need to do it McLaren's way, where you have 2 equal number ones. But if your priority in any kind of sense is the Drivers' Championship, this year has absolutely proved that you can only have one guy in a team going for it. And Schumacher was right.
Yeah.
Alonso 2007 was right. Vettel was right. You can't have. Had McLaren thrown it away and Max would have won, we'd be saying that case closed, you cannot have 2 number ones in a team. If you want to win a Drivers' Championship, you must have a number one, the way Max goes about it, the way Schumacher did, etc., etc., etc. And the fact they've got away with it, and it was fun watching the two teammates battle. But think about the headaches they had with you prefer this and you prefer that, and they want Lando to win because he's been with the team longer, and why are they disadvantaging Oscar and taking points off each other. 2 points.
It creates too much noise.
Headaches.
I'm with you. I agree with you that I love the ethos of it all's fair in love and war. But I think you also are right that it's the extremity within Red Bull that has allowed this to happen. And what I will do is then throw it forward to next year, right? Where we could, let's say, paint a picture. You've got that Mercedes engine is seriously better than the others. Now, if we assume that the equipment provided, maybe Mercedes will have an advantage because they're the works team. But there are 4 teams with good pairings in there. I mean, perhaps we can doubt the pairing down at Alpine compared to
they're
the
still
others,
in restructuring.
Restructuring,
phase,
right? But let's say you've got a settled team at Williams, settled team at McLaren, and a settled team at Mercedes, all going at it in reasonably equal machinery. Then what? I mean, probably an easy decision to make it a 1-2 George and Kimi. Not so at McLaren, and not so at Williams. No. I mean, wow, that would be incredible.
Well, I'm not even sure it's easy for Mercedes to make it. If Antonelli, keeps up the momentum he's shown. All right, he's only in his 2nd season next year, but he is Toto's protege, and George is still in doubt for 2027. Although you could probably say they both are. Then I'm not sure you could say with that. But yeah, it is going to be so interesting. But I do think that integration of a works team is probably going to be important. Let's not forget Aston Martin.
Yeah, I know. What do you do there? Can you have a 1-2 there? You'd be like, less said about that, the better. Same with Ferrari. I mean, but these are all hypothetical, so we can cross that bridge when we look forward to next year. Let's get into Oscar. As you said, I feel for him. I really do. He was there. He was 34 points ahead after Zandvoort, and he let it slide and finished, what was it in the end, 13 points adrift. But beat his teammate in the last weekend, was good in Qatar, was extremely unlucky at times, got the wrong end of bad calls. Look at Monza, for example. But how do you assess it? I felt, in the grand scheme of things, it was kind of a coming-of-age championship. Would that be a fair thing to say? It's only his 3rd season compared to Lando's 7th.
I mean, Oscar led more laps than Lando.
Yeah.
He won just as many races. He matched him. They were 15-15 in qualifying and only 0.016 on average across the season. Shows how close they were, incredibly close. And that's a big step forward from where Oscar was last year. So to your point, I think it is a bit of a coming-of-age season for him. It was those 3 weekends, Austin, Mexico, Brazil. 46 points lost in those 3 weekends. I was just wrote it down.
6 weekends, wasn't it? After Monza, I think it was Baku as well.
Yeah,
right?
but I think Baku was a weird one because it was clumsy. Baku was clumsy. He was fast. It was fast and just as fast, Lando, but it was clumsy nonsense stuff. Yeah. Whereas from pure performance, those were 3 weekends where he was really lacking to Lando. If you look at the rest of the season, you know, they were nip and tuck, weren't they? One way or the other. But something mysterious happened in those 3 weekends about his speed. Baku was a mess. Absolutely uncharacteristic errors, messy weekend. But to me, it was the lack of performance, because that dented his confidence. As a driver, psychologically, that dented, it was a bit of a snowball effect, I think, in those 3. For me, I would love to know really what happened. There's theories around low grip surfaces and bumpy tracks, but we went to low grip tracks in Saudi and China, places like Saudi. You know what I mean? Like this, I would love, and we won't get the answer now. Maybe in 10 years' time, have a beer with Oscar and ask him, what do you think happened in those 3 weekends?
Okay.
What do you think happened?
That's
I
the
don't
doubt.
know. I really don't know.
All right. Well, if we've got a doubt about the Austin, Mexico low grip thing, then that's one thing that will go unlearnt for next year. But the other 2 things that will go learnt for next year is, one, don't mess around with potentially getting penalties for the Silverstone backing up safety car penalty that probably cost him the win.
So
and then don't put yourself in a position where you might get the Brazil penalty with the driving standards nonsense, which cost him.
Although it could have looked
5
brilliant. It could have
points
looked brilliant if
in
he'd
there.
been given the room that.
Yeah. But so it's low grip. Lessons for Oscar: low grip, high grip. Sort that out. Don't get affected by your disappointment of the jump start, and then trying to make up for it with the crash in Baku. Series of unfortunate events. And then the penalties, because those are the only things that undid the season, really.
Yeah, I mean, I worked out, so I reckon he lost 31 points, including disqualification in Vegas.
Yeah.
And Lando lost 36 points between the non-finishes and disqualifications. Oscar, obviously, Qatar strategically as well.
Oh, and
7 points.
Melbourne spinning off on the grass as well.
Yeah, but Melbourne was a fun. They both went off, and one landed the right.
Yeah.
I think Silverstone, I felt that was really harsh because the safety car turned the lights off really late. And you watch back the onboards, and I spoke to some other drivers, including George Russell, who was in that queue, and who thought, you know, that he didn't deserve that because the safety car. Anyway, the point is, I think he's been on the wrong end of the penalties on a couple of occasions. I'm interested to see what happens next year because will Lando walk a bit taller, carry a bit more confidence with the number 1 on his car? Is he going to be, a driver now who, as I was saying before, maybe has a bit more of that inner self-belief, and that might be harder for Oscar? Is Oscar going to be somewhat enraged that he didn't win it this year and come back stronger?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to see.
No, I'm with you. I think it's, as you said, or as we both said, coming of age year, and the proof will be in next year. And I think the fact that he actually finished with a little bit of a flourish will give him great confidence going into next year. And you never know, maybe a little bit of that whole, I've achieved everything that I want to achieve. Because actually, when you look at Lando's season, it's not just winning the championship. I mentioned this in the build-up on Sunday. He's ticked off 2 massive ones. He's won the British Grand Prix, his home Grand Prix, even though maybe Oscar got unlucky not to have done that one, and the Monaco Grand Prix. You're going, when you sat stuffing your face with turkey and chucking the eggnog down, you're thinking, that was one hell of a season. Like, you know, you've achieved pretty much everything every driver wants to tick off.
Was he going to do a Nico Rosberg?
Yeah, I don't think he'll do that. But it was certainly, the season to end all season for him. And if he never achieves anything again, you just go, thanks very much. 2025 was a pretty good one, wasn't it? Quick word on our show partner Audi. The philosophy of Audi Sport isn't just about winning races, it's about pushing boundaries. Everything learnt on the track goes straight into Audi's road cars, making them just as thrilling as they are refined. Take the Audi RS range, serious performance, but with a level of sophistication and refinement that doesn't need to be loud to make a statement. It's that perfect blend of power and precision wrapped in quiet luxury. Whether it's their powerful style or the RS sports suspension with Quattro all-wheel drive for razor-sharp handling, Audi is constantly redefining the future of performance. Book a test drive today to experience the Audi RS range for yourself. But for Max then, so let's move it on to him. I think, if anything, this season reinforced the theory that he's still head and shoulders. Is that fair? Head and shoulders above the rest of the pack and one of the greatest of all time. Maybe even moved up that list with the car this year that he's had. To still take 8 victories, the most of anybody. To finish within 2, to take it right down to the wire. Brilliant. I mean, I run out of superlatives from a long time ago.
He's the gold standard.
Yeah.
He's I would say head and shoulders above the rest because he's there. He's
Always.
It's his grid, and he's going to decide if you give him the car, he's going to pick it up and run with it. It's the dip of the Red Bull in the middle of the year. All right, there's the Spain mistake, but actually I think the greater loss was the car just not being anywhere. And his fight back to close down 104 points he closed down 102.
I know. Well, it's crazy, isn't it?
To finish 2 behind.
Yeah. And
it's just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite funny, wasn't it? It was Kimi Antonelli sort of said to him, "Oh, sorry about the 2 points in thing," because that would have been enough. The last lap in Qatar.
Yeah.
Don't start
that again.
Yeah, but ultimately that wasn't it. As to Ted's point, Max lost the championship because the Red Bull wasn't quick enough in the first 2/3 of the year. I mean, if you look at since the summer break, Max outscored Lando by 86 points and outscored Oscar by 108 since the summer break.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable.
But apparently in the writtens, he bristled afterwards when people asked him about losing points because of banging wheels and that penalty that he got in Spain with George. Yeah. Like if you were to point at the tiniest of tiny Achilles heels that he might have, will he have learnt from that and can he apply it, or do you think Max will always be Max?
No. I like that he had a go at, poor Giles Richards from The Guardian asked him that. I don't know why, because it had been asked so many times before.
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, did he really need to ask that for his piece that he was writing in the newspaper the next day? And then, the angry Max he's been so chilled of the whole thing, properly lost it. And it's like, why do you have to do? Sitting there grinning on your face. And I can totally understand that because there are so many more things. But in the middle, I'm sure we'll get onto it, big changes going on at Red Bull Racing, which we'll get onto. Yeah. But Max is in the middle of, there's, as they might say, a bit going on at Red Bull Racing at the moment. Yeah. And he's been the one constant.
Yeah, I think for Max, the Spain thing, I think he will have learned it. It was the first time we heard him apologize. Yeah. He came out and did a post and apologized, which we didn't hear him do.
Belatedly, yeah.
Sorry?
Begrudgingly, yeah.
Yeah, but he did accept fault with it, and he said it at the next race on the Thursday interviews as well, which we didn't hear when, for example, he ran Lando off the road in Mexico the year before and things like that.
But
so I think he has learned.
Begrudgingly, because it wasn't all his fault. It was down to a duff call from the pit wall.
I get it.
Do you remember the Canada when he had a go at me for naming the unnameable Stephen Knowles, the man who shall not be named? The sporting director of Red Bull, who took over the sporting side from Jonathan Wheatley, and who got the call wrong, who said to GP, I think you should tell him to give the place back. And that was what started it. Mm-hmm. Nothing would have happened without that. And so then I said to Max, do you remember? I said to Max, with Stephen Knowles, the new rules guy, do you need to work with a better way of communicating these things? So maybe they can have a chat with it first before it gets to you to give the place back if you don't agree with it, or you can have a discussion about it. And then he had to go at me because obviously it was a sensitive subject within Red Bull, saying why you bring his name into it. I don't think it's cool that you should name this guy. I said, well, he does have a name. Should I not name Stephen Knowles? Is he your new rules guy? We used to say about. He thought I was throwing this guy under the bus, when obviously he doesn't.
You literally were doing that.
How was I throwing him under the bus? What am I not meant to name him? It's like Jonathan can't say Jonathan Wheatley anymore.
Hang on, it's a bit like
It's just naming him.
Yeah, but it's not like you're going to name somebody on our team if some technical thing doesn't work, like a
He's literally
camera or something.
He's literally a public figure on the pit wall.
He does it to Pete.
He's literally
look at poor old Pete over there behind that camera.
Hey,
don't do it to Pete again if he messes up.
Pete gets named good,
bad,
and bad. It's always me and Pete.
Poor Pete.
But anyway, look, this is I think important because Max's red mist wasn't actually caused by something that was his fault.
Yeah.
He felt aggrieved that he had been told to do what was, according to everybody, was the wrong thing, and he didn't need to let George back through.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be. I can understand why he gets annoyed about it, because it wasn't actually his fault.
Yeah. No. Well. No, yeah. Good. And you
you
do a great job of winding up Ripple anyway. That's one of your things.
Nobody else.
Number one top talent.
No one. Someone takes over from Jonathan Wheatley, but we're not to mention his name. He shall not be named.
Well, I've only mentioned him 17 times on this podcast now.
So
did a good
on
job.
that subject, stop mentioning his name. Let's move it on, because as you mentioned, right, of the, let's call it the dream team, the Red Bull dream team.
But don't name any of them.
But I'm going to name them all now. Newey goes, Horner goes, Wheatley's gone, Courtney's gone, and now the good doctor, Dr. Helmut Marko, or good or bad doctor, depending on your viewpoint, he's gone. At the age of 82, he has, it says it's his own decision. Was it his own decision? Had he annoyed Red Bull management? There was something to do with Alex Dunn and that signature, and then, he is a signatory because he's a director, and then they didn't want him, and therefore, anyway, whatever, he's gone, and that probably spells the end of an era. And what my point here is not, first of all, just talk about Dr. Marko, because, whether you like him or not, he has brought in Vettel and Verstappen, Ricciardo, loads of others that haven't, made it yet, but the last one, Lindblad, who's come in and now is going to be into the Racing Bulls. So first of all, just give me a little, overall impression of what he did for that team. And secondly, now that it's all kind of crumbled, has the empire crumbled? It's not. I mean, they've just nearly come within two. Yeah. But what for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with Helmut as a Red Bull junior. He was a tough taskmaster. And
got rid of you.
They actually left on good terms. I was one of the few who left on good terms.
Oh, right. Okay,
and carried on a sort of, ambassador deal and things like that. Oh. And he...
Declaring an interest here.
Yeah. Long gone now, I can assure you.
All right.
But he was really tough. He expected results, and if you didn't give it, he would call you up on a Sunday night and give you a mouthful and just hang up while you were mid-sentence. But he got results, didn't he? He did the same with teams. If the teams and the junior formulas weren't delivering for the drivers coming through, they got an absolute earful, because he's like, look, I'm paying you guys to produce my next world champions. You're not doing a good job. And as you say, Simon, ultimately, you look at the drivers that came through: Sainz, Ricciardo, Albon, Verstappen, Vettel, Gasly, all top drivers. Top drivers. So you have to give him credit from that respect.
Yes, or had it kind of fallen away towards the end? Did we see sort of, everyone's got more into their young driver probes. Arguably, they were the ones that started that process. They were the best at it first, and then other teams mirrored them and got better at it. No, just let me come to my point. My point is that towards the end that had gone, but also he did have a habit of making bloopers in the media, the latest of which reinforcing that stuff about Kimi Antonelli after the event, after the team had apologised for it. And it kind of got to the point where it felt like the way you went about things, the comments about Perez, I think it was in Singapore a couple of years ago, they're just antiquated. And maybe that's what did for them as they tried to get themselves into a more modern environment. I don't know.
Ooh, hark, Simon.
A reindeer.
Can you hear? I can just hear.
What?
From Oxfordshire or from Warwickshire. I can hear from, it's the Christian Horner's house. I can hear laughing. I can hear the faint sounds of Christian Horner laughing about Helmut Marko. that power struggle didn't end well, did it?
No, it didn't.
So let's just remind ourselves.
That would be an excellent bit of social media clipping
on.
for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely remove
Let's
that.
just
but yes,
let's just remind
run
ourselves.
with it for the moment.
All right.
Yeah, good.
But hang on, Simon. Let's just remind ourselves
you don't need
about the power struggle.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. There was a power struggle. Wasn't too long ago. You were talking about
No,
it,
I know.
presenting on the telly, between Helmut Marko and the Verstappens on one side,
Yeah.
and Christian Horner on the other.
Yeah.
And what happened there? Christian Horner parted company with Red Bull.
Yeah.
Now Helmut Marko's gone. What's Max thinking? It's like that
Where?
power struggle. What happened to that power struggle?
I think it's continuing.
Christian Horner's probably laughing, you know, and look, say what you want about Helmut Marko, and heaven knows, you know, he's not my cup of tea. Do you know when in the Vettel era, when I used to go and Vettel had won, and I would, you know, I'd maybe interview a team boss first or whatever, or I'd go up to Christian Horner, you know, I'd sort of wait for him to come off the pit wall for an interview, such as my job as a pit reporter, and we do the interviews off the pit wall. Helmut Marko would always stride up, you know, tap Christian on the back, and over there we would tap Guillaume Roquelin on the back, and it was, and then a couple of times, Christian was, they were talking to me, I was where Karun was waiting, and he'd be there, and Christian would be there, and he'd say to Christian, "Oh, well, anyway, I see your trained monkey is waiting for you for the interview, so you better get on with it." And then he'd go off. He used to call me like this trained monkey that would follow Christian Horner around with a microphone. I was like, yeah, good one, Helmut.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for all his faults.
This is scarred you. Are you
therapy.
okay? Are
This
you
is
okay?
therapy for me.
On the therapy
Right.
couch,
You want to lie down on this
Okay.
couch? I can get
For
up
all
here.
his faults, right? The you know, the stupid comments about Antonelli, the disgusting comments about Perez and blaming his lack of form on his ethnicity, for being, you know, for all of that, he was a hard old school racer. And when GP was in tears on the pit wall 3 days ago, who came and gave him "It's all right, mate, you know, it's all right." It was Helmut. And there's something deep inside me that is sorry to see the old guy go. Something very small, and I will take it up, put it in a small bag, and throw it in a bin when we finish this podcast, because I think his time has finished.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
There you go.
I don't
that was
know.
therapy for me.
run all of that on Instagram. Just run it, clip it. No, it's fair enough. That is that.
I don't think I've said anything.
Speaking for a number of people on this one, but I go back to the point. Where the hell does this leave Max? There are some rumours that GP is not going to be at as many races. Maybe he's going to take a more senior position.
Well, he's already got a senior position, but those rumours have been around for ages.
Yeah,
he's looking to
actually,
move up.
yeah, I know.
to-
He's head of effectively all race engineering.
Race engineering,
But I think even one step ahead of that, and it's going to be at fewer races.
Yeah,
and
but
therefore,
who can you find to engineer Max?
well, they're going to have to find somebody.
I know.
Because if they are moving the chess pieces, I mean, they're a team in rebuild, right? I mean, you look at what they've been doing or they're having to do now. If Red Bull powertrains aren't what we think, well, they hope they're going to be, then what? Because he is going to have, I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the other teams, but he's going to have the pick of them, isn't he? He's just going to be wherever he wants to be in 2027.
Exactly that. Max Verstappen, I think, will be in the best car in 2027. Which one that will be, we don't know yet. He doesn't know yet. Next year's the first quarter of next year will be a look, watch, analyse, think period for him. And I think by the summer, he will pick and choose. And you know what? Every single team on that grid will open their arms and welcome him because, as we've all established, he is the top dog on the grid today.
Yeah, it's really difficult. This next step, I mean, you say what you want about Helmut Marko, but you know, maybe it was his time to retire. This next step of engineering and, you know, Mekis can just about hold that together. Pierre Vacher seems to be safe, I think, at the moment. Okay, they've lost Will Courtney, as you said, the strategy guy, but Hannah Schmitz is an able leader of that department. If she were to go, I think that would be an issue. And the GP thing, that relationship is so deep. I can't think, I've been thinking about this since that news came out on Sunday and thinking, who could replace an engineer like GP? And the only one I can think of actually is Rocky, is Guillaume Roquelin. But then he's moved on because he's got the experience, the wherewithal, the know-how in Red Bull, and the grit really to make that relationship work, and the respect. And I can't think of too many engineers up and down who could actually do that job.
Yeah, but let's not forget, GP missed 3 races this year, and Simon Rennie stepped
Yeah, but Simon Rennie doesn't want to travel.
But
to all the races.
But if we don't know, right?
We're
We're speaking for other people in terms of what they want to do. But let's say if GP only wants to miss 6 or 7 races, that's still 18 races. He is going to be there, and you can make that work. So I'm sure they will have a plan which they'll formulate along with Max, because they recognize how important that relationship is. I think the bigger question really is the one you made about the powertrains. Are they going to hit the ground running? Because actually, if they have got a strong power unit next year and the car's good, because you'd have to say they've recovered their sort of direction towards the end of the season, then no reason for him to leave in an environment where he is the number 1 driver unchallenged. But we'll see.
We will see. Let's pick up some other stories before we round this off, because we'll cover off some very, very merry things in the Christmas podcast, but we're waiting for Bernie Collins for that. She's not arrived yet. So unfortunately I have to continue with you two for the moment. But with regards to Lindblad and also Isaac, remember to pronounce it Isaac. I've been doing it Isaac all year. Isaac. Then I get told it's Isaac, and I look like the idiot that I am. But with regards to those two, Lawson's staying, but let's get your opinions on Hajar moving up first, and what we think Lindblad will be able to achieve in this. He's not had an amazing season in Formula 2. He's certainly not ripped up the trees. But first of all, Hajar against Max. Has he got anything up his sleeve compared to the last few because of the change in regulations, or will we have to wait to find out?
I think we have to wait to find out.
Yeah.
I think, if it was a current cast continuing, I would be very afraid for him. The fact that we got new regs coming, there's an opportunity that it might just balance out. Because, I remember talking to Checo about this in Mexico earlier this year, and he was talking about how in that 2020, 2021, he wasn't that far away from Max, but the way the style of car and the way the car developed in this current generation just went so far in Max's direction, it was impossible for anyone else. So, fingers crossed for Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac. I'm going to practice that over
the with Helmut Marko gone, who's going to sack him if he's not good enough? Nobody. So great. It's worked out really well.
Actually, hasn't it?
I wonder if
good timing on a number of
good
fronts.
timing, yeah, great timing for Isaac Hajar. Yeah, because Mekis is a fan and is a believer in Hajar's ability. So I think he'll be better, and I hope he'll be sort of Sergio Perez level. Will he be beating Max? I'm not sure. I think these cars are going to be so different. Maybe it appeals, and we'll go to the kids and the PlayStation generation. I don't know if we can still call Hajar that. Maybe Max, the amount of gaming he does, will be absolutely fine. But the amount of management you need to do, the amount of complicated harvesting, the amount of understanding with this huge acceleration, and then this regen you need to do, and what your active aero is doing, and when it's shutting, and all of that, then Hajar will be right on that. Whereas, maybe it might take Max a bit of time to adjust.
I think there's also consideration as to how much Max will enjoy the new generation of car. And I know there's a few people at Red Bull who said to me, I was at the airport in Sao Paulo chatting with some of them at the gate, and they were all a bit nervous, saying, actually, I'm a bit concerned Max just might not enjoy F1 2026 as much, and that might be tricky because it is a very different style of racing. So they hope that's not the case. But, if that is the case, it might favour the other car, whoever's in the other car, and in this case, Hajar. So let's see.
He'll enjoy it if he's winning.
Yes, he will. Do you think he might, if it was obviously bad, do you think he might just say, right, after 4 races, I'm going to have the rest of the year off? I know he's got a contract, but...
No, but I think
because he seems like I can walk away from it at any point. Maybe he might.
Yeah, but this year proved actually that he doesn't do that, does he? He doesn't walk away from it. No. Like he would have, when they finished 8th or whatever in Budapest, and he's nowhere in the championship, it's like, what's the point? But
Yeah, it might be
actually
different if they're tugging around at the back, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So let's.
Oh, you're really, really pessimistic on their chances, aren't you?
I'm not. I'm just saying that. Who knows? And on Lindblad, I suppose let's just judge it when it happens, because what's the point in saying? Because none of us know how he'll square up to Lawson at this stage.
Yeah.
He went to a good school, though.
If it will have a
we'd have
good,
to get into that
if
again.
that RB continues as a good chassis,
Yeah.
I'd also like to know whether there's anybody from RB in the Red Bull technology or going between the teams who is going there with a little cup of Racing Bull's car goodness and say, Red Bull, do you want any of this? That made the cars generally. I know it was a flat bottom and ground effect, but we're going to a bit of different rule set. We kind of know what it takes to make a really good, nice, drivable car. Do you want some of that?
Yeah.
For Christmas?
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of crossover or some questions that Red Bull Racing will be asking their brothers and sisters at Racing Bulls and thinking, how did you make that such a sort of drivable, predictable car?
Ted. You know the technical regulations don't
The
permit
people
that.
move around all the time.
They might bump into each other in the car park, but
Okay, you're not meant to do technical transfer like that.
Lewis Hamilton, first season with no podiums, honeymoon over pretty quickly at Ferrari, says he's going to unplug, going to leave the matrix. I think we'd all could benefit from doing that, but specifically someone of his ilk and his caliber after the season that he's had, absolutely genuinely needs a reset. I hope we see the best Lewis come out the box in 2026. I'm sure we will. There's no reason to say that we won't. But if that Ferrari isn't the quickest out the box as well, then what, I suppose, is the question.
I mean, the dream quickly turned into a nightmare, wasn't it? That picture of Lewis in front of Enzo Ferrari's house, that was the statement of the season. And we had so much optimism based on the last part of Ferrari's last season. And then China, the sprint, it's like, ooh, this could be magic. This could happen.
He did win a race.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But then,
sprint race, yeah.
but from that Sunday in China, it just
Fell apart, yeah.
Fell apart. And, Leclerc got 7 podiums, none for Lewis this year. And there was a phase after the summer break where I thought, okay, the pace is coming back, and he was matching Leclerc, and then again it went away. I mean, I think from the sprint qualifying in Belgium, Leclerc out-qualified Lewis 14-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big score, isn't it, to the end of the season. So, yeah, hopefully he'll have a good reset and come back. But it's a make or break season, I think, for that relationship.
The only thing he needs to address is the qualifying performance, because the rest is just whether Ferrari listened to him on the changes he wants. He said, like Carlos Sainz said when he was at Ferrari have everything it takes to be a championship-winning team. What he didn't complete that sentence, and what Sainz never really completes that sentence, is they're just not doing it. Yeah. Or are they just not doing it? Or why are they just not doing it? Or I can see what they need to be a championship team, but we're not just there yet. So let's go back to, they have everything they need to be a championship-winning team. Are they going to take Hamilton's advice and on board? Or is the little deficit, the one deficit he's got, which is the qualifying performance and pace, especially when it comes to Q3, and this generation of cars and this generation of tyres, will that be rectified? But if that carries on to 2026, then I think you're probably looking at him just seeing out his contract at Ferrari for one more year.
I mean, I would suggest that whilst he might be unplugging from the matrix, he might need to replug into that matrix early in 2026, because, as you said, there's so much to learn on these cars, and it's going to be important for everyone to be right on top of it.
Can a driver, can he go to a kart track? Is there some sort of qualifying tutor that you can go and say, Mr. Qualifying, can you help me qualify better? And just concentrate on that over the winter?
I don't think so. No. I think he's qualifying is that risk-reward game. Are you going to chase the extra meter under braking? Can you afford to come off the brake pedal? It's about that feel of the tire as you load up. It's very hard to replicate that, because you've got to get the track conditions for when the track's rubbered up. As you say, Q3 particularly is where there's been a challenge. And it's very tough to replicate the pressure of having to deliver that. You can do things like, if you went testing and you could have 50 sets of new tires and go, let's do 51 lap qualifying simulations where you're going to try to, yes, you can do it. but the testing rules don't allow it. And you're limited in the number of days, and there's so much to learn, of course, for next year. So it's they will have to try and figure out ways. Maybe it comes to the early weekends of free practice. Maybe it means burn up extra tires in practice to give them an extra bit of extra qualifying prep or something. But something has to change. They have to do something to help him, because if you keep doing the same thing, you'll get the same results. They have to try something different for next year, I think, to improve this qualifying situation.
Okay, let's leave it there. We're going to cover off a lot in the Christmas special, whenever that comes out. But final thoughts on 2025 and Lando. Again, you've said what the strap line would be, but personally, how will you remember this season? Go on, Ted. You can start us off.
Well, I mean, maybe I can just touch on some of the rest for Abu Dhabi. What was the rest of them? Fernando Alonso, I think, continues to sort of buck the trend.
Yeah.
Well done to him. He'll be 45 in the middle of next year, which was amazing. Mercedes are kind of nothing weekend. Alpine 10th, they've dropped. So will they be better? We've talked about them a little bit. Ocon and Haas, that was not so bad. P6 in the constructors for Racing Bulls. So even though they didn't score any points, okay. P5 in the constructors for Williams. We'll see what happens with them. And Sauber, even though they scored an absolute bucket full of points, only ended up P9 in the constructors. And Audi, some question marks coming in for them about next year.
As a
well.
big Sauber fan, did you
you
shed a tear?
Yeah, that gone.
I did.
You
I
are
did
a
actually.
Sauber super fan.
I did. Do you
I
know
saw
why?
that shot of Peter Sauber with the fireworks, looking
Yep.
forlornly
Yep.
into the distance as the fireworks.
Head over his shoulder.
Because how random a team do you have to be where if you're Peter Sauber and you're Swiss and you're in Switzerland, you think, I'm going to start a Formula One team, bearing in mind that in Switzerland until 2022, motor racing was illegal. There was a ban on motor racing that stretched back to the 1955 Le Mans disaster. It was 55 or 53?
55.
Right. So you were up until 2022, when they changed the rules where you are allowed some kind of motor racing. Motor racing was banned in Switzerland. And he thought, never mind about that. I'm going to start a Formula One racing team, and before that, a sports car team, very successful team in Switzerland.
So that's your,
And he did it.
Well done,
And he
Peter
did it.
Sauber. And it's also a country
It's like
where it's illegal to wash your car on the street.
It's like
that's true.
It's like the knight who built his castle in a swamp. And what happened? It fell into the swamp. But I built another castle. What happened to that one? That fell into the swamp as well. But I built another castle, and that one stayed up. And that, son, is what you're going to inherit.
I'm sure he got a good price for it. for Audi, eh?
But
A sweet
out of
deal.
all, he did, but what, a crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
Start a racing team in Switzerland where the very thing that you're doing is illegal. But he did it anyway, and that was Peter Sauber, and that's why I shed a tear
Sunday
for him
night
when he accepted the massive check from Audi.
Yeah, exactly. That's your final thoughts. That counts as your final thoughts on 2025. Anything to add to that?
I mean,
How can you add to that?
How can you add
I
to
think
that?
that's actually a really
No, come
good way
on, you've
to
got
end
a final
the podcast.
thought. The question he asked was about Lando and...
It was. I mean, just a quick word on Lando.
good guys can still win.
Yes, I agree with you. He did it his way. In the words of Frank Sinatra, but who can play us out? Maybe can we do that? Can we put some Frank Sinatra at the end? Don't know if you can do that.
They're all good guys.
Yeah, they can. They're all good guys, but well, some of them are, some of them aren't. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed this, the penultimate podcast, F1 show of 2025. We'll see you, as I said, with our Christmas hats on and with the reindeer nibbling at our toes in a week or so's time. But well done. Say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.